Hey, thanks for reaching out. So this is one where you would do, well, actually, hi, I'm Dale. I'm going to give you some strategies for working on this research on this very important topic. And I'm glad that you're working on this. So background searching in this case is really, really good out on the open web because there are activist groups and lobbies and people trying to change this. So I don't necessarily recommend AI because it throws out data that you can't necessarily cite. But let me show you a tip of how to find some stuff. That's good grammar. So I Googled rates of domestic abuse on women in incarceration, and it gave me up to 95% of incarcerated women have experienced the violence. So the important thing is, what do we got that is citing it? And so I went to this one, and it'll give you keyword ideas too. So like failure to protect laws. Another one that I got was criminalized survivors. But I went to this, and I found there was a group here, an advocacy site, and they have reports for things to look at. Just to start out, look for reports and things like this, and then if it's a good legitimate source, it won't be scholarly necessarily. There's more of like a white paper is what it's called. So it's just a lot of good looking data, but it's hard to describe. It's not a peer-reviewed scholarly article. It's self-published. But in a lot of the good ones, if they're talking about data and statistics, they will go down at the bottom. Wikipedia does this too. AI is terrible about this, but Wikipedia is good about this. But they will cite their sources, and that's where you can find hard sociology data. So for the example, you probably can't see this on the video, but this one goes for the Center for Disease Control, and this is something that you could cite. The CDC is a legitimate, high-level, unbiased resource. So you could go in and grab things like this. Talk with your professor on where these would be worthwhile to use, but you can get a lot of ideas for the presentation of data, because a lot of these will have infographics in them. Here's one caveat though, it's not a peer-reviewed article. So how do we move from these data onto peer-reviewed scholarly articles? Well, let me show you. So if we go to the University of Utah Merritt Library, libutah.edu, go to the advanced catalog search. What I'll do is I'll show you some basic searching in this one and have a very specific strategy for you to follow, which I'll send you a copy of the keywords. But then I'll also have database recommendations too. So go to advanced catalog search. When you're searching out on the open web, it will look for the word. So for example, if you're looking for domestic violence, it will look for all the synonyms and related words via the AI algorithm. That's what AI does. It looks for one word, and then through mathematical calculations, it figures out what words are related to it, and then it'll look for those words too. In ours, we have to type that in. So for the first one, I'm going to do, I'm not going to do it in caps, incarcerated. So if you look for this in a library catalog or databases, it's not going to look for related words. It's only going to look for these specific set of letters. So for example, gosh, how many things? Maybe there's like 100 million things of an insect flying. There might be 100 million things that this looking for the incarcerated. And that's the only thing it's looking for. And here it'll tell you. And you could go into, so there's only, it's only 25,000 scholarly articles. You should be good with that. So if there's related terminology, we might have to do an or and put a synonym in there. So you can see that I've done this already. Incarcerated or imprisoned. This expands the search. So we have 25,000 scholarly articles. What do we have now? 32,000 articles. No, that's the wrong direction. Okay, so that's our first thing. You can narrow it down by saying, I want that to be in a specific place, like the title. So instead of looking anywhere in the article, I can narrow it down and just say, I only want that to be in the title of the article, book, chapter, whatever. So then we'll go down to 8,000. That's pretty good. So let's add another one. Women. I don't know if there's any other way of doing it. In sociological studies, they often don't say female, or they don't add age qualifiers. Like usually they'll say like children instead of girls, for example. So women is a good keyword. Let's push that one up to the title too. So we want incarcerated or imprisoned and women to be in the title only. So what this is doing is it'll narrow it down from the 8,000. Let's see how far it goes. Ooh, it narrowed it down to 1,000. And this is where, if 95% of women have suffered interpersonal violence or domestic abuse, a lot of this you could probably just go through and look at these. But let's add those. So on this one, this is where I'm going to send you those things. We want to put things in quotes because we want those two words to stick together, right? So if it's more than one word, it might look up domestic here and violence there. So let's do that, but let's add other ones. Intimate partner violence. That's kind of a newer terminology. And I misspelled it. If you misspell it, it will only look for those misspelled words, by the way. So let's see what happens when we search for this. And instead of looking for the title, I just had it be anywhere. Ooh, that narrows it down to 87. So that's where you could probably go through and start to grab some data. In a lot of these articles, if not all of them, they're not going to have, like when we were looking in these other websites, they're not going to have broad national statistics like the Center for Disease Control did. There's going to be very, very focused studies that were sponsored by and created by the authors. So let's look at one, for example. Coercive control, PTSD, physical violence in heterosexual relationships of incarcerated women. So it's really focused, but let's go in and see what data there might be. Oh, by the way, to read an abstract, this is your key. So if it looks like a good title, look at the abstract, and they'll tell you a little bit of the problem at the beginning. They'll tell you about how they designed the study, and then they'll give you the results or the conclusions at the end. So coercive control is significantly related to PTSD. So it might turn that, so like threats of violence. If you don't do this, I'm going to hurt you. That's coercive control. So this is like qualifying for interventions and things like that. But it's with a population that's incarcerated. Very specific, but let's go through and see. So that one looks pretty good. Even though it's very focused, it's not going to be generic. So at the beginning, there's a lit review. In the middle, they'll talk about how they gathered data. You don't have to read any of these. Here's what I was just talking about. But somewhere in here, they should have their data presented in like tables and even infographics that you can use. Yay, look at that. So what you could do, oftentimes we want to put things in like national scope of like, these are all the women that are incarcerated and these are the levels of intimate partner violence that they're suffering through. But in some of these infographics, you could look at age ranges and you could look at specific things that are going on and still have as an impactful of a resource that you had had with the national statistics from the CDC, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. Most of these databases have citation generators, by the way. So if you need to get help starting out, although this one's wrong, they're using title case instead of sentence case. Okay. You also wanted to know about databases. Are you still watching this video? So this is a great place to go, no doubt, but it's all over the place. It's got like electrical engineering mixed with like criminal justice system stuff. So you can go to databases, and if you know the name of a database, or you can go by subject. So you can go to, where did you go? Criminology. And you can pick these, and you can do that exact same search that we did. I should have pre-searched this for you. And women, and you can pick the title for this one too. Document title, add a row, and I've got all my synonyms, which I will send to you. And then I only want peer reviewed, and I only want peer reviewed from the last 3 years. There's so many different ways that you can narrow it down. Yeah. Oh man, I never heard of it called intimate terrorism. Wow. Here we go. Childhood adversity, women's experience. There's going to be overlap with some other databases, but this is kind of how you would go in. If you ever run stuck and you can't get the full text of an article, look for this Find It button. And it'll go to the library catalog. And you can click on a list of another database that it will send it to you. Just click like mad until you can find it. If you can't find something, let me know. And let me know how it goes. You have picked a great topic, but there's a lot of nuance. So be good to yourself and go, well, I can maybe use this. This looks pretty good. Work with your professor, reach out to me, and I'm happy to help.